He's a lay minister for the First Congregational Church in Hillsborough, District 19, and also a law enforcement emergency services chaplain. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Father, we thank you. We thank you for these elected officials and all those present here today. We thank you for your many abundant blessings, for the ability to be involved in such useful work and the integrity of your calling to service. You give so many with honorable responsibilities. Be with all gathered here throughout this meeting. Guide the conversations and conduct to be upright and fair. Provide those here with your grace as they discuss the challenges of today's world and make plans for tomorrow. Help to provide wisdom and understanding, Almighty God, strength and courage, knowledge of the needs of this county, and the confidence to always do what is right and fitting in each and every circumstance. Help all to meet the integrity that public service requires. We pray with thankful hearts. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Affirmation of public notice. Properly noticed.
This meeting was properly noticed.
A roll call.
District 1, Beitlich.
Here.
District 2, Semke.
Kyle's excused.
Not coming. District 3, Gady.
Here.
District 4, Bringy.
Here.
District 5, Opti. District 6, Pedretti.
Here.
District 7, Meehan Strube. District 8, Egan. District 9, Olson. District 10, Easterday. District 11, Jacobson. District 12, Henry.
Here.
District 13, Taylor.
She's absent.
District 14, Yitri. District 15, Schweiger. District 16, Wilson. District 17, Muller. District 18, Mitchell. District 19, Stanek. (17) present, 2 absent. You have a quorum.
Motion to excuse Alice Ann and Kyle. Kelly and Kay. All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Approve the minutes from February 15th, 2024 meeting. Motion by Dave Egan to approve, second by Sandy. All in favor?
Hi.
All good? There's a delay. All against, same sign. We're good. Anybody online or in the audience wish to make a comment? Seeing none, are there any announcements? Morning.
I'm good. Okay. Good morning. They told me I get to come up here and speak, so I'll Try not to fall off. So thank you for having me here today, and thank you all for the work that you do. I was driving up here this morning thinking to myself, I would not want your jobs, and so I just want to express my appreciation for what you guys do. All of you, you guys in the back too. My name is Nancy Wedwick, and I wear many different hats. I've lived in the Vernon County for most of my life. Family was here long before me. Some of the first people who came here from Norway and settled this area. So a long history going back. And I've done a lot of different things in my life. I practiced law, I have taught, I have worked in local government. I have most recently have become a business owner. We're landowners. And my most important job is I'm a grandma, and I've got a little 2-year-old. So when you see me skip out of here, it's not because I don't want to listen to everything and all of your work. I got a little guy coming that I have to babysit today. The other thing that I sort of fell into was being the president of the Coon Creek Community Watershed Council. And that is largely what I'm here to talk to you about today. I know Jerry said if anybody is interested, he could print off our Watershed Council annual report for you, which I'm going to tell you, you might want to take a look at. For one thing, it's got a lot of pictures. We didn't make it really wordy, and it's got a lot of maps and interesting information in it. So, watershed councils. We are very fortunate in this area to have four that are born under the tutelage of Ben Moyan, our land conservationist, and through the hard work of Valley Stewardship Network. So we are one. The oldest watershed council in this area is the Tainter Creek Farmer-Led Watershed Council. And then we came along, and then the Bad Axe Stewards, and most recently the Rush Creek Conservation Watershed Council. So when I first got involved in this work and we began asking questions, the first question I had is, what's a watershed? Just show of hands, does anybody know actually what a watershed is? Do you know which one you live in? Oh, pretty good. That's pretty good, actually. Pardon me? I haven't mentioned it yet. No, not a, see, we got to work on that. We need more of these things. That's it. That's exactly right. So they're wonderful things because they are made up of community members, largely farmers who want to do the good work on the ground, right? The things that need to happen in order for us to continue to have a viable, sustainable way of living. And it's hard work, but it's good work, and we try to have a lot of fun with it. So in our report, I'm just going to highlight a few things from the last year. Our mission is to continue our historic legacy of conservation leadership and through improving our land, water, and air as stewards of the Coon Creek watershed. That is what we do. We are not here to, I don't know how you would describe it, take over any work that's being done or anything like that. Our work really surrounds education, awareness of issues, and building community and building relationships. I've begun personally to think about community in a different way. I think of it in terms of a watershed community, because everything that I do living up on the ridge affects the people who live below me. And so it's a different way of thinking, particularly since we live in this area that is given to heavy, devastating flooding, and then now a couple years maybe of drought. So our activities over the last year, we hold monthly meetings. We try to hold them in different locations and showcase, learn from one another about the good work that's being done. We held 2 celebrations last year, our first Conservation Day in May, and I will put a plug in for our next celebration, which is going to be on May 4th of this year. We're going to have the Conservation Day celebration just outside of Coon Valley, near the site of the first Civilian Conservation Corps camp that came here in the 90s. to be part of the nation's first large-scale watershed conservation demonstration project. And we will be having music all day, food, local vendors. Molly B, if you know who Molly B is, she will be there at 5 o'clock, 4:30 kids polka with Molly B at polka party, and then the 5 o'clock show. So, and the point of all of that is raising awareness again about the good work being done and more work that needs to happen. We also celebrated last year the 90th anniversary of the Coon Creek watershed. And dignitaries from across the nation were present because what happened in the 1930s in this area, in this county, made history. And in conservation circles, it is well-renowned, well-known, the most studied watershed in the nation, if not the world. And so we celebrated those 90 years because of the importance of that and the relevance today, given the wild weather that we have, right? The heavy rains, the increasing frequency of the storms and the intensity and the duration, and the importance of implementing more conservation practices on the ground. So what do those great conservation practices do, and why do they matter? Well, they do a few different things. One, if we can, as we like to say, make the running water walk, slow the water down, the first thing it does is it doesn't come as fast, right? If you get it infiltrating into the ground, it doesn't come as much, which means you all don't have to figure out how you're going to repair more bridges, more culverts, more highways, more taxes, things like that. It has a direct effect on infrastructure, not to mention people's lives, homes, livelihoods, things like that. The other thing that it does when that water infiltrates, and those are practices over years, it's in the ground in times of drought. And so it can feed the plants and the animals above the ground in times of drought, which we're facing right now. And another thing that it does, when you make that running water walk, infiltrate into the ground, it reduces the runoff, right? So you're not losing your topsoil. You're keeping it rather than sending it down into the valley. You're keeping your real estate. All these important things happen. We work together. We're all volunteers. Between these 4 watershed councils, we probably are nearing about 200 members, I would think, amongst all of them. And we invite more people to come and learn and have some fun learning and working with us to try to build, right, this better future for all of us. So some commonalities are, number one, everybody lives in a watershed, and I invite you to go visit the Land Conservation Office or stop by Monique's office and check out the maps, find which ones that you live in, because it's just, those are interesting facts alone. And second, please feel welcome to join any of our meetings. The other thing that I do have to talk a little bit about today. Some of you will not be returning next month, and thank you especially for the work that you've done. You'll have a new board coming on, and you guys are going to be faced with a historic decision and a very momentous situation is upon us. In this area that we live in this driftless area. It is unique in the world. It is ancient. It was not passed through by the glaciers. And so we have this unique, beautiful place that requires a different level of care, just because of the steep hillsides and the waters and things that happen. In the 1930s, you may know the story, the huge problem that was created, the erosion, the flooding, all of these things. The federal government, in the form of the Soil Erosion Service, now NRCS, headed by Hugh Bennett at the time, recognized there was a problem. As did Aldo Leopold at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, as did the people who lived in this area, and as did Theodore Roosevelt. who said, you know what, let's get the Conservation Corps, Civilian Conservation Corps together. Let's work together, federal government, university, people who live here. Let's rally everybody, work together, fix this problem. And they did it with terraces that you can still see on the ground today. I brought a bunch, there's your agenda. I brought a bunch, a map on the front of a driving tour that you can take of the Coon Creek watershed and see some of these very historic sites, and I'll pass those out in a little bit. They all came together, put in these small retention ponds, put in small dam structures, did the contour strips, the rotating of the crops, all of this work, and it worked. It worked. Land management practices worked. Some flooding still continued. So in the 1950s and the 1960s, federal government came back again and put in the PL 566 dams. We know them as the Corn Dam, the Melsna Dam, the Lucasen Dam. I suppose I'm probably mentioning the ones that failed or over-breached on that night in August, where such devastation occurred. That had never happened anywhere prior in the nation at that level, that many dams. That caused NRCS to say, you know what, we got to take a look at this situation. We have got to do a study. We have to figure out what happened. So they embarked on that. And here we are now in 2024, and they have made their recommendation. They looked at different alternatives and determined the best alternative would be to decommission the dams. They're aging out. We know this. They've met or exceeded their life expectancy. And so their thought is decommission the dams by notching them and then walking away. And so what you as a county board will be considering is that enough, or does there need to be a part B? Part B's that we have been looking at were also included in the Plan PEIS study that came out, the draft of the study. And those things were land management practices that actually work, that the study speaks about that does work, small retention ponds that actually work, that could, if implemented wide scale enough, catch at least half of what the dams were already catching in place. But as it stands right now, the federal government wants to just notch, walk away, and here the rest of us are together, right? Because when they do make that notch, the water will come through it. It will rise more quickly. It will recede more quickly, is what they tell us, but it will increase the risk of flooding, and it is something that we all have to think about. As a group, we are determined to bring the federal government to the table to work with us. We already, the university already stands ready and wants to work with us. They've already been doing all kinds of studies, want to work with this organization, with this county to implement the kinds of practices widespread that could make a difference. It's just our federal partners who helped us 90 years ago that aren't wanting to meet the challenge this time around. And so we want to work with you, look forward to interacting with you as we grapple with what is going to happen here over the course of the next few years. In the Coon Creek watershed, we have 14 of the dams. I think in the West Fork, if I'm correct, there are 9. All of them will be decommissioned, notched, save for one. That's 22 dams in this area. There are 82 of these dams in the state of Wisconsin. So we've got a quarter of them here, and there are nearly 12,000 more across the nation. So the eyes of the nation are upon us here. How are we going to meet this challenge, and how are we going to work through it? Questions yet to be determined, and I know some of you get to not puzzle this one out. Come and join us at a watershed meeting if you are so inclined. But for the rest of you, you'll be asked in May to sign an agreement to go forward with this plan. And we are urging you and asking you to think about it and think about what might be the best way forward. decommissioning, we understand that, absolutely. As the state engineer said, we need a different vision for land management practices. And we want to work together to achieve that so that we can all continue to live in this beautiful area together. That's probably the end of my remarks. I could go on and on about this because aside from my little grandchild, this right here is the most important work I will ever do in my life, because if we don't get this right, I can forget about having a business. We can forget about having a sustainable future. So that's my speech for the morning. I am going to pass these around. I think there are 19 of you. I managed to grab 18 of them. So somebody gets to share, or we will be happy to get you an additional copy. Does anybody have any questions before I wander away? Oh, I'll let you tackle the other stuff. I know I just laid a heavy task on you. But we're here to help. So thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, for bringing that to our attention.
Absolutely. This one?
No, the other one.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Bad Axe watershed, and we like to say that it's farmers educating farmers, but it's also farmers educating the city folks and stuff too. Coon Valley's got a lot of city folks on their council. And, you know,
It's a big city.
yeah. And we do need to, you know, Part A is a necessity. I mean, it's when a dam breaks, it gets really ugly, but we do need to have a Part B to this. So, thank you. Okay, Stacy. Something interesting happening at the recycling center.
Good morning. I'm not here with bad news today. So last Wednesday, excuse me, I was in the office early afternoon. I get a call from my landfill operator. We got a situation out here. I was like, oh God, oh what? Apparently, one of the front load packer trucks was delivering up in the landfill, and he opened the back end of these trucks open, and a ram pushes the garbage out into the landfill. That back door opened, and out glided a young bald eagle. He glided out of the garbage truck and out into our landfill. Bopped around the landfill for a while before Brian called me. He was like, you need to make some phone calls. So I reached out to the DNR, talked to Shauna. She gave me the number of the federal DNR representative of our area. Unfortunately, he was in Iowa at the time. He's like, I won't be able to get there till tomorrow. Got a number of the Raptor Education Group out of Antigo, Wisconsin. They were like, you can go catch him and put him in a box and then take him to the La Crosse, the Cooley Region Humane Society for us, and we'll pick him up tomorrow. And I was like, I'm sorry, you want me to what? So I got another name from the federal DNR guy. He contacted me back after my conversation with the Raptor group, and to my relief, Dan Goltz from the Wisconsin DNR, he's a biologist. He lives right down the road from the landfill. He's like, I'll be there in 5. Thanks, Dan. You're a real lifesaver. And here's a video of Dan single-handedly capturing this eagle out on the landfill. He was limping around, unable to fly away, and Dan ran him down, caught him, no gloves, no long sleeves on. Me and Mike were out in the landfill going to help him, and apparently he didn't need us. So we thought that was pretty incredible. And here's some pictures from that event. Apparently, when you capture a raptor, you're supposed to put something over them to make it dark. Then they calm down, because he was pretty unimpressed with being caught. He's got his talons right there in that picture in Dan Gold's pants, beaks open in the next picture, just not impressed at all. We had the bag thing. Mike's like, probably shouldn't put a bag, so he gave up his sweatshirt, and we put the sweatshirt over the bird, and got him back out to the landing area on the landfill. So just some pictures of this event. Here is Mike Paulsrud, works out at the landfill. He's the most senior employee there. Wanted pictures taken, so we got pictures with this eagle. Dan was checking his wings to see if anything was broke. Here's my glamour shot. Oh, here's another one of Mike. That's how big that bird was. I was like, you want me to go catch that thing? I would have tried, but here's my glamour shot. The thing's barking at me, and I was like, oh my God, don't let that peck me, please. But then there's a better one. I was going through my pictures. I was like, not my best photo, but it's too funny to leave out. So update on the eagle. Dan did capture it. He put it in a dog crate in the back of his truck, and away he went with it. Had that thing captured within 15 minutes, so that was cool. He took it to the Cooley Region Humane Society that evening. Luckily, nothing is broken on the eagle, but he's still unable to fly. So the Raptor Education Group out of Anago went to the Cooley Region Humane Society, did take the bird. They're going to take it back to their facility for rehabilitation. I called again this morning to be like, how's my bird? And then I had to send an email, which I didn't hear back yet on. But I just thought that was something a little positive out of my facility for you guys this morning. So that's all I got. Oh, one more thing, sorry. Aside from our big eagle adventure last week, on Sunday, I do every year hold a annual site attendant meeting for all of the site attendants, any municipal officials, and I do have the dates and times and information if you guys would like to attend that too. I do cook. Don't worry, it's nothing out of the landfill. I make a pretty good meal. We do a big kind of meeting conversation about stuff going on with the recycling, the landfill, just kind of a recap of 23. I usually have a gift card or something to raffle off. And then I provide a tour of the recycling facility for sure. The landfill is always depending on the weather. So if any of you guys would like to attend, we will get it posted. So if you guys would like to attend, I'll hand these out. And I think that's all I got.
Some kind of public notice that you can legally attend.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to hearing how the Eagles ends up.
Your invitation.
Oh,
Look pretty good.
she's a good cook. I will say that. It's really good. Okay, resolutions. Resolution 2024-16, revise and update county committee and commission structure, roles and responsibilities. Stacy? Oh, motion to bring it to the floor. Dave? Ole?
Feel very bringing.
Mary?
I was just gonna second that, so,
Oh,
but it's already done.
Okay, we got a motion to get on the phone. And imagine Cassie's going to talk about it, but I just wanted to ask if the board would give us an amendment. On page 5, we kind of overlooked it, Monique brought it up, that the Land Information Council, and then in here we keep referring to committee in that paragraph, and we would like if you wouldn't mind, an amendment that would change, we're referring to committee to be changed to be council.
So we had this document at General Government Committee for 2 months in a row to make some updates, updated to reflect the role of administrative coordinator and how that person interacts with the county committees. Included a provision that was also recommended from the Counties Association that at no time shall a citizen member serve as a chair or vice chair of any committee. Included language for appointive committees that the chair and vice chair of those committees are appointed by the county board chair. The opioid abatement and prevention steering committee was not in this document previously, so that's now reflected on page 7. Also the planning commission, and just a note to that, we originally adopted it as a planning committee. It's actually a commission, so this document, once adopted, it will be a commission. They're already acting like a commission, but so more of just a cleanup there. And then just general updates to the language. We had a lot of language like supervises and changed that to oversee because a committee doesn't actually supervise staff, more of a policy-making body. So most of it is, like I said, just general cleanup. And then those items that I pointed out, and as Jerry said, the Land Information Council, if we want to make that amendment in that section to reflect council instead of committee.
Motion by Opti and second by Olson to make that change.
Okay,
And then
all in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes.
as amended,
Okay. Discussion on resolution? Seeing none, all in favor of resolution 2024, revise and update county committee and commission structure, roles and responsibilities, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Resolution 2024-17, Community Projects Funding Program, fiscal year 2025. Motion to bring it to the floor. Martha, second by Charlie.
Morning. One of my capital improvement items is our mobile command center. This vehicle is about, our current one is 20 years old. I have got it on a replacement schedule for 2024. However, I've pushed that back with some other things going on. Both Congressman Derek Van Orden and Senator Tammy Baldwin offer congressional spending annually. So we'd like to apply to that for 2025 funding. Currently, with this, it's just transparency to apply for the grants. We're not spending any money today or when we apply. The deadline is this weekend for Sunday for Baldwin's office. Van Orden, they just said get it there as soon as possible. They didn't have a deadline yet. So once we hear back, if we're awarded, then it does require a match. That's why we're here. We would have further discussions. I did get some rough quotes from a couple vendors, nothing deep in the weeds of what it would cost, but we're asking for up to $725,000. From what I'm seeing so far, a new one would not cost that for our needs. And this unit does benefit all 33 municipalities, all 14 fire and EMS departments, 9 law enforcement, and our county hazmat team that serves 4 counties. So it can be a regional asset, not just a county asset. So it's a self-contained unit, so we don't have to worry about hooking up to with a truck and pull a trailer. It's a drivable unit. So just looking to be able to send this support to send these on as a grant application to these 2 offices.
All right, now I'm on. Just to clarify, if you were to receive this grant, then the county would be obligated to about 25% of.
Correct. Yep. And then once we're awarded, then we have, I think, a year to actually spend the money. So we would go through the RFP process and actually iron out the fine details of it, and then make sure we're under budget. And then they do ask for the money up front. I think that's listed in the resolution, and then it would be reimbursed, except for that 25%.
Thank you.
Brendan, you were able to recapture some of this cost from the old unit then too?
Yeah. We would try and sell the old unit then, or the current one. So that may help some of that cost. We would sell it, via Wisconsin surplus, or to be able to try and recoup some of that. match.
So does the resolution state where the funding's coming from?
We did not put that in there yet with some other things that have been going on. We did not put that in there, but that's something for discussion. With it being 2025 funding, the 2023 requests were just allocated last week. So we have potentially 6 months to a year before we may hear. So we work on identifying that in this interim, but we didn't want to specifically list that right now with other things going on. So.
Brandon, would any of the other municipalities counties be kicking in on it?
No, some of them have their own, but we have been in other counties where we've had 2 of them. So we've been in other counties where we're actually using theirs and ours. So it depends on how big the incident is, but they have not been asked to help with that.
You explain the funding again, how much it costs and our share 25%?
So we just put in there up to $725,000. Like I said, what I've been seeing with a few quotes, it's less than that. And it depends on which funding source or which subcommittee from appropriations it goes through. Could be up to 25%. So we just put that max. It all depends on which subcommittee it appropriates through, but most of them were 20 or 25%. So we just went with that higher one just to be safe.
So if we apply for it and we receive this grant and we find out that it's like a 10% match of $750,000, can we then, are we obligated to go forth with it or can we turn it down at that time?
I think either way we can turn it down if that's what is chosen to do, whether it's 10% match or 25% match. You're getting potentially a $650,000 vehicle for even if it's 25%, $150,000. So or less. So.
Any other discussion? Ole?
This is our 25 budget, right? Or
26, we haven't put anything in any budget yet. We'll look at that this summer when we work on budgeting to maybe earmark some funds for next year just in case. But eventually I would like to replace it. So continue looking for other grants. We're not just going to rely on this one. So it will be coming up in the next couple of years to try and replace it either way, in some fashion.
Any other questions for Brandon? Anybody online? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution 2024-17 for the community projects funding program for fiscal year 2025 or 26, should we add that? It doesn't matter.
The grant is.
The grant's 25. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Resolution passes. Thank you, Brandon. Work zone resolution 2024-19.
You went right by 18.
you got 18.
Oh, well, sorry, Jerry. Resolution 2024-18, establish elected official salary for the 2025 to the 2028 term.
You won't want to support it, but you can't just pass it off.
Motion to bring it to the floor. Sandy and Gail. What'd you do if no one wanted to bring it to the floor, Jerry?
I just put in the minutes that it got approved.
Okay. Cassie?
So we are required to set these salaries in the spring. For the November election, this term will actually start in January. With setting these salaries, we looked at comparable counties population-wise with a variance of, I think, about 10,000 one way or the other in population. We also looked at comparable internally to other department heads and what they're being paid and what the proposed wage scale is as well. So these numbers that you have in front of you fall right in line with that. We did build in a 3% increase from year to year. And anything I missed, Sherry?
That pretty well covers it.
Any questions or comments on the resolution? Anybody online? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution 2024-18, establishing the elected official salaries for the 2025 to 28 term, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Resolution 2024-19, Work Zone Awareness Week. Motion to bring that to the floor.
I would just say thank you to the board.
Dave and Kelly. Bill's gonna dig.
Whoa, baby. We do this every year since its inception. It's just a governor's proclamation that they like all counties to tag in on, to declare April 15th through the 19th as Work Zone Awareness Safety Week. It's no cost. We just sign a paper and send it to the state.
Any questions? So all those in favor of resolution 2024-19, supporting the Work Zone Awareness Week, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes. Resolution 2024-20, revised policy number 503, overtime and compensatory time. Motion to bring it to the floor. Charlie. Meham Strubes. Cassie.
All right. So the policy that you have in front of you was actually approved by general government in September of 2022. We discovered that this policy never actually went to the full board. However, the policy was implemented and communicated to employees at the time. So in discovering that it was not adopted by the board, we did bring it back to General Government Committee. Did make one change from what was changed in September of 22. That would have been the 2.2 to reflect per shift instead of pay period for the correctional officers. Otherwise, the big shift with this policy is that we are not counting PTO days, comp time, anything like that towards hours worked for overtime purposes. So this is a countywide policy. It would essentially be a benefit upon a benefit if we did that. And federal law states that you don't have to count those hours basically into your hours worked calculation. So that is the purpose of bringing it back here, is that it be formally adopted by this body. And I don't know, Mary, were you going to share what Alice-Ann?
Alice-Ann's not able to be with us today, but she asked that the following information be shared with you. She encourages us not to go backwards and pay people overtime on hours not worked. It's very problematic. It is also not doing our due diligence by when we raised our wages to be competitive to the market. It is our responsibility to manage our benefits in the most financially responsible way. This is her professional and personal opinion, and she asked that it be shared.
Any other comments? Charlie?
Under section 2 overtime 2.2 again, this got brought up at the Public Safety Committee, and we would like to see as a committee that 2.2 gets removed completely. One, it singles out the correctional officer position, and there's other positions that would qualify for. And two, it contradicts past practice of the sheriff's office on how they do things. And if my understanding of the law is correct, the sheriff's office is allowed to pay more. They just can't pay less. So this would be, by removing this, then public safety will look at a overtime policy specific to the sheriff's office. And my understanding is there's other departments and offices that have done the same thing, and that would fit with the standard practices going on now rather than to contradict it.
I'm reading this that if you are scheduled for an 8-hour shift and you end up working 10 hours, even if you work 40 hours during that week, that them 2 hours that you work overtime on your scheduled shift is overtime. And you're wanting that eliminated, Charlie?
Yes, from the committee 2.2, where the issue comes and where the sheriff, why he brought it up was he was having problems filling shifts. Where this comes from, if you take a PTO day on Monday and then you work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you assume that your work is done, but now you get called in on mandatory overtime on Saturday. What this policy will do is then say, well, we'll just give you back your PTO day on Monday to use whenever you want, but we're not going to pay you overtime for Saturday. And that's where the issue was coming, and getting people to come in knowing that they're not going to get overtime for that shift. And that's against what they've always done. And to clarify, this is all pre-approved leave time. This isn't short notice, that they know they're going to work Saturday. This is all pre-approved and according to the existing policy. So it's not short notice leaves.
Mary Henry?
I agree with Charlie. Law enforcement is a whole different entity of its own in what they do and perform, and on demand 24/7. And it needs to be looked at differently and not put in with everybody else just because of the nature of their job.
I would agree with Mary there also, except that the highway department has the same problems over there and the nursing home has the same problems. I mean, basically anybody that's not a scheduled office worker, for lack of a better term, would only be the ones that it doesn't apply to. And I still think maybe this 2.2 isn't where we're at with. I think this is a spot that we want to keep, Charlie. If they're scheduled for 10 hours and they work 12, that's an automatic 2 hours of overtime, above and beyond any other overtime issues that are on, and whether they end up working 46 hours because they took Monday off. If they work in excess of hours in a shift that they're already there, I don't think this one is talking about an extra shift. I think this is a continuation of a shift. And I think I would like to have that one kept there for sure. And that's another discussion, that you're advocating for is another discussion, I think.
Comment, I guess.
We discussed this in some detail in public safety, and what we're doing here is we're going to work on something here in the near future and bring this back. But, you know, when you get caught in this no overtime thing, the number of people that want to participate and come in on that extra time are going to get far and few. And pretty soon, we're going to have to force people to come in, and that's going to be rather unpleasant to have that. They're just not going to try being available or something. It's just going to make a lot of difficulties. So we have to correct that difference here soon.
Well, thank you, Will. I respect Chair Taylor's opinion on that, but I just want everybody to understand, and the scenario I'll use is very similar to what Charlie said. I have somebody taking vacation on Monday. They work the rest of the week. I call them that morning and say, we've had an emergency and we need you to come in ASAP. And I don't want to make this sound extreme, but these things do come up. And by the way, we know that it is your grandchild's birthday. We'll try to get you home as soon as we can. And for them to get straight time on that Saturday is really causing problems in my office. And I'd sure appreciate your support. And as Charlie said, it would be, we're talking about a vacation that was approved maybe months ago, not this last minute stuff. If it's a last minute day, I totally understand that. But I know there was talk about, well, could we come up with an incentive-based system? Well, that is your incentive right there. You know, rather than paying everybody to be on call for a weekend and giving them an incentive, this is the incentive that if you're called in outside of your schedule, it's time and a half.
This isn't a regular thing that happens. I believe it happened 4 times last quarter, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Sheriff?
Well, there were 4 timesheets that it affected when this all came to light. So it will happen, it's going to happen occasionally, not every day. The PTO or the vacation, there again, these people schedule these out, months in advance. Most of the employees do, and I understand that if it's a last minute thing, and we do have to use them, then that's just going to be part of their schedule. The federal law allows the county to do it this way, but they do not. They do not prohibit if you overpay. So I just wanted to make that clear that that is not a federal law that you have to count your PTO as hours worked. You're allowed to, but you do not have to. So back to Will's point, we try our hardest to never have to order in an employee. We try to cover it. We try to dual train as many officers as we can so we don't have to force that overtime. But once in a while, as you know, we have minimum staffing levels. We have 50 state prison inmates, and we have to have a minimum staff by state statute. Dispatchers, I have to have someone answering these 911 calls. And when we're short on the weekend or whenever the case might be, we are a 24/7, 366 operation. And this decision will really affect my office, and it's my goal to provide you and the citizens the very best level of service. And I do feel strongly about this one, and I feel that this decision will better support my office and ultimately the community. And there again, we really work hard to not order people in, but one of those recent changes, she was ordered in and just was paid straight time for that, got her PTO day back, and it did not go over well at all.
Martha?
I just have a question. I was wondering, how did this resolution ever single out just correctional officers? Because doesn't it really pertain to kind of all departments if they do overtime? Just a question.
I do not know where that came from. That was prior to the changes that were made in September of 2022. That paragraph, I'm not sure when that ended up in there. What we run into is correctional off. I don't want to go into the weeds, but correctional officers are considered exempted employees for IRS purposes, but dispatchers are not. So perhaps that's why the wording went in there, but I'm not sure the history of how that went in there. But I think what the captain is saying is if we are able to make a department specific policy, our HR director had mentioned that at our last meeting, that maybe just striking that whole language out of the county policy might be the best idea. So it doesn't single anyone out. But I'm not sure of the history on that, Martha.
Should get a motion to do that.
Charlie's got an amendment on the floor with a motion, but we don't have a second to that. Okay, would Dave seconds it? Okay.
Okay. I'll keep discussing.
Okay, Mary Henry's had her hand up for a while. Mary?
That can come down. I actually wanted to second it, but it got second. That's fine.
I'm wondering if taking this out is going to do what you want it to do. I guess, if this is gone, what remains? I mean, then we're back to the straight overtime, 40 hours. By taking this out, I think we're going to be where you don't want to be. I think we're not going to be solving the problem by taking that out. Right? I don't know if
Yeah, you have this gap, basically. If we remove the correctional officer reference in here, then yes, they would be treated just like any other employee for overtime purposes, where it's the 40 hours.
40 hours work. And that's
however, if we did remove it and work towards creating a department specific policy, I would recommend something incentive based, but we're not talking about having them, on call for a whole weekend. We're talking about an incentive for them to pick up a shift. And that incentive doesn't necessarily have to be that we're paying them overtime for their entire shift. It could be, we're going to pay you an extra, $1 an hour, an extra $2 an hour, whatever it might be. I think will help in covering some of those shifts. And they have historically done things like that, I believe, at Vernon Manor to help fill those gaps. So we could certainly work towards creating a department specific policy, but you're absolutely correct. If we do remove 2.2, in the meantime, before anything else would be adopted, those correctional officers per county policy would be treated the same.
okay. That's what I thought, that we were going where the sheriff and Charlie doesn't want to go by taking this out. We're where they don't want to be. Ole.
I think we should go back to, this should be tabled today or sent back to the committee. Because we're moving that to sentence. I'm not sure if that's the right direction to do. And you gotta get corp counsel and then maybe general government, then come back to here.
Mary?
That was going to be my question for corporation counsel. What is it legally that can be done in light of the Fair Labor Standards Act as well as Wisconsin's Labor Standards Act? What's allowable or legal under the law, and what is it that we're trying to work around that makes us not in compliance?
Mary? Oh, okay. Yep.
Oh, I see. I see.
Prepared to rule off the cup, whether or not that is going to be what's being discussed would be consistent with law. As was discussed in Gen Gov, there is concern of a slippery slope, if you will, because there are certainly other analogous departments with employees in similar situations. So you would be, at least it would be prudent to be aware of that slippery slope and that you're arguably opening up the door for the need to treat other similarly situated employees just like you're treating the sheriff's employees. But directly on point to your questions are noted, and if I'm directed to research that, I'll be glad to. That makes sense.
I contacted the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development Equal Rights Officer, and the law allows us to do this. And I've covered that state and federal. And I know Mary reads everything you send her, and I'd be happy to forward my correspondence to you if this is tabled.
John Pedretti, I think, had his hand up.
Nope, I'm good. Thanks.
You got, okay.
So then I would guess I would ask Tricia, as a human resources officer, how is this normally or actually carried out in terms of overtime, compensatory time, and how it's considered versus workable hours?
My recommendation is that we follow the federal standards and have department-specific policies. That's what I recommended at general government.
Mary Henry?
Tricia, and maybe you can answer this. I just would like, and now it seems like it's so combobulated, I would like the sheriff's department to stay as it is as past practice. So however we get to that point, that's how I would like to see this happen.
Any other discussion or Will?
I don't know if that's possible to stay the same way it was. I think that's the problem. But Cassie referred to some incentive pay. And I believe some other counties do that for call-in. I don't just know how that works, but that's to be discussed yet. I think we haven't really explored that possibility, how that works. I know the sheriff had some contact or knew about somebody, a different county, I think it was Sauk County he was referring to. So this is something I think that still needs more exploring.
Charlie?
Well, and maybe, is there, like a year ago, 2 years ago, we did something different with the highway for like snow things. And is it possible, like that was supposed to increase and then it caused issues like $4 an hour. And then we changed it back to doing like everybody increased during those winter months or something to not cause issues within the department. Is there something possible like that that we could do with the sheriff's department? I would guess, just having my husband in law enforcement, a lot of times these situations occur over holidays. Families don't seem to get along during holidays and you get pulled out with a domestic or something big. Is there possibly something on that order?
Yeah, right now we're discussing an amendment, 2.2, as to whether or not we should take out employees in the correctional office position may receive pay for overtime hours. This will be paid at a time-and-a-half hourly rate for pay for any hours worked in excess of their normally scheduled hours. And Charlie?
I guess for the short term, I'm going to request that my request for a change is removed. And then we'll take this back up at committee try to do a specific policy to fit this, and then we'll bring it back.
Okay, how does that work?
So we're withdrawing his motion.
The amendment.
We're withdrawing the motion. We can do that. Can we not? We have to vote on it.
He's the one.
We have to vote.
Can I say one more thing, Mr. Chair? So at the general government, so if Charlie's withdrawing his motion for the amendment, the general government committee did make one change to propose, so we don't lose track of that. So if we leave it as is under 2.2, the very last sentence says scheduled hours per pay period. The general government committee did approve that saying per shift, not per pay period. So if 2.2 stays in there, that was the recommendation of the general government committee. It is on there. Okay.
We'll have to clarify this up because I'm under the impression we're about to vote down an amendment so that we can postpone and send this back to Gen Gov. Am I not? Right, but isn't everybody talking about sending it back to come up with a different plan? No? All right, then. Carry on.
They proposed
So,
committee standard.
So address the amendment. We gotta vote on it.
all in favor of striking 2.2? Employees in the correctional office position may receive pay for overtime hours. This will be paid at time and a half. The hourly rate for pay for any hours worked in excess of their normally hours per shift. And yeah, I didn't read it right. I see shift is red underlined, not struck. So that,
Being added.
that's, that makes a difference too, so. All in favor, aye. In favor of striking it is the motion. So if you want.
Right now, the amendment is to remove 2.2 from this document. So do you want to remove 2.2, yes or no?
All up, well, I called for in favor. All opposed, nay? Nay.
Yay.
The nays have it. Now we're back to the original resolution.
Okay, the amendment failed, I guess.
Yeah. Are there any questions?
That was a little clunky. But we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. The revision of the overtime and compensate. So I mean, I take it we're wanting to send it back to general government for clarification. And no,
I think what we have here stays as is, and then we'll work on public safety at that point to see if we can come up with something that fits as a office dependent policy, and then we'll present that at a later time.
Okay. Any?
So, take that back.
Yeah, take that back. It's right.
So any further discussion on 2024-20? Okay, seeing none, resolution, all in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Resolution passes. Resolution 2024-21, County Bridge Aid. Motion to bring it to the floor.
Resolution as presented in this paperwork.
We adopted the changes in 503.
So if public safety wants to review this, they do this at their time, at their next meeting, whatever. But nothing to do with us today.
Nothing to do with us today. Need a motion to bring Bridge Aid to the floor.
I'll make
Kelly?
that motion.
Who was it?
Mary, then Kelly.
Is that bringing?
Bringy.
You can't see me.
Bill.
Okay, this is something we do every year. Years ago, the county opted in that we do a cost share for the towns on their bridge projects and small structure projects. This is voting on the past year's bills that we've paid, and then this in turn helps us set the levy. That money in turn gets levied back to all towns, so all towns help all towns reimburse for their bridge builds and their C structures.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution 2024, the county bridge aid, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes. Resolution 2024-22, 2024 budget amendment, Health Department. Motion to bring it to the floor. Kelly, Kay.
Good morning, everyone. This is Amy. Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Good morning. So mine should be much more easier than the sheriff's department's. Very simply put, we are bringing forth budget changes that have come up since the budget 2024 approval. A couple of these are grant fundings that we apply for every year. A couple of the changes with the WIC consolidated contract and the vaccine funding. Pardon me, those are pretty par for the course with our state contracts. It's not unusual for the consolidated contracts to be amended in a calendar year. So we're just sharing for transparency. There is no increase to tax levy. This will be coming from grant sources and from state funding. Any questions?
No.
Any questions for Amy? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution 2024-22, the budget amendment for the health department, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes, resolution passes. Resolution 2024-23, physical plant assessment for Vernon Manor and Vernon Acres. Motion to bring it to the floor.
I'd like,
Mary, Henry, or bringing.
is Mary bringing?
All right. So give you guys an update as to where we're sitting with all of this. As you know, we were looking to do a feasibility study to explore 3 different options for Vernon Manor and Vernon Acres. If we should sell the facility, if we should continue to operate the facility with recommended changes, or if we should have a management company come in. We have gone through the RFP process for that. We've done interviews with vendors. We've selected a vendor. And in that process, we were also contacted by Bethany St. Joe's out of La Crosse as far as exploring what a management agreement might look like. It was the committee's recommendation that we further explore that option, and I'll go into some of those details in a moment here. But regardless of if we move forward with a feasibility study or if we move forward with a management company option, we're going to need a physical plant assessment. The physical plant assessment will let us know what our capital needs are for projecting those out into the future so that we can adequately budget and plan for those. So what the recommendation of the committee is, and this also went through the finance committee on Tuesday, that we would request up to $15,000 in ARPA funding to move forward with that assessment while we continue to look at what that management agreement might look like. Currently, Bethany St. Joe's operates Northland in Westby and has since the 80s. That partnership with the city is great. I contacted the city of Westby, spoken to them about that. This model, what would happen is BSJ would take over all of the staff at the nursing home. We would continue to own the facility. We were responsible for any capital needs. They would come to us, to the committee and ultimately the board for any capital requests for purchases. Obviously, if there were an emergency or something would come up, they would deal with it at that point and then, then come to committee. There would be a fee associated with the management agreement, and that we'll continue to work on. We'll also iron out the details of who's responsible for what. But we wanted to further explore that to give the board options. I know we have a lot of varying opinions on what we should be doing with the facility. And the committee felt like that was a good middle ground option to continue to explore while we get this physical plant assessment done. So I'd be happy to answer any questions as far as what we know so far about what a management agreement might look like, but that's where we're sitting right now. Yeah.
It's important to note as well, even in the study that we're looking at doing at all options, that's still very open, but this physical plant assessment will make that even more solid. So this isn't by any means a double spend or a waste of money. It's actually going to be really, really good data to make that even more fundamental.
Right. And it is something that we included in the original RFP that we put out.
Any discussion, questions?
Kat, excuse me, this is Mary Bringy. I think it would be nice if Cassie would maybe hit some of the points of what this management company would do so people understand maybe on a higher level what we're looking at. Such as staffing and those types of questions.
Yeah. So just to address this, because I know there have been some rumors going around too, like we're not selling out to BSJ. What was that, Jay? I'm trying to keep it short and because nothing is finalized. We are just, this is an option we're exploring. They would retain all staff. So, from everything we've been communicating with, that no one's losing their job or anything like that. We also feel that bringing them in, someone with experience running these kind of facilities would really benefit not only the staff there, but also our residents. That they could really add to the quality of care. So like I said, I don't want to go into great detail because nothing is ironed out yet. But I do want to address that we are not looking at anyone losing their job.
Yes, I think that's very important.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of resolution 2024-23 for the physical plant assessment for Vernon Manor and Vernon Acres signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes. Okay, we're going to take a 5 to 8 minute break.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the greatest thing to come along if we can get through it through. And you'll have money in our pocket.
We got some coffee. Yeah, we got coffee over here. There's cookies, bananas,
It just tells us
oranges.
Is Mary and John still online?
Yes, I'm here.
And what would you
Yep,
like on?
I'm here.
I'm here, Mary Henry.
Okay.
Okay. Mary Henry, too.
Resolution 2024 budget amendment, projected revenue shortfall. Motion to bring it to the floor. Dave and Rod and Cassie.
Yes. So you should all have a copy of this in front of you, and then I believe it's up on the screen as well. As you're all aware, we had an error that led to our debt levy not being apportioned onto our real estate tax bills. This error means that we're going to see a $2.2 million in lost revenue for the 2024 budget cycle. We had discussed at Finance Committee some different options, and what was very clear is that we did not want to borrow to make up for that shortfall. So we looked into some different funds and identified some replacement funds to offset that revenue shortfall, pulling $200,000 out of the excess sales tax, $500,000 out of ARPA, just over $262,000 out of Ho-Chunk from previous years that's not committed, $250,000 from 2024 Ho-Chunk dollars that are not committed for next year yet, and then just over $1 million from our general fund reserve. We will be working with some internal processes here to make sure that nothing like this happens again. It's incredibly unfortunate that we are in this position, and it's not something that we're taking lightly. Also be looking at, when we look at next year's budget, because our levy did drop so significantly, that we may use some cash on hand to offset that big jump, because right now what we'd be looking at is essentially an 18% increase from this year to next year, because we did go down so much. Now, if we looked at from last year to next year, it's really only about a 5%, but it's just because we went down so significantly to get us back up to where we need to be next year. It is going to be quite a jump. And so we will be looking at some options as far as cash to offset that. But as far as 2024 goes and that lost revenue, this is what was identified on Tuesday by the Finance Committee for options to fill that gap.
I just want to make the statement that this resolution is what we're going to do going forward. We're not here to discuss what happened. It's not on the agenda. Are there any comments or questions on the solution? Ole.
Okay. I know this has to be done. I wouldn't think it has to be done today, because, I mean, restricted reserve funds, that 9 million or so stacked up there. I think the Finance Committee, along with other staff, go through that list and probably can pull at least $500 to $1 million out of that. This piles of money and stuck away that should be looked at. 99 different accounts. Been there since I've been on the board 18 years. Been there ever since. And it just sits there and keeps growing. If the department don't use it, or through the authorization of this board, maybe we don't need so much in this pile. So I really should be reduced at least to $1 million.
Rod?
Ole, as you're the former chair of finance and I'm the current chair, I can't agree with you more. And you know, I both agree, but we also worked on that for 10 years. We've made strides and we've just still not fixed it. So I think the point is we need to fill this gap, come up with a plan. I fully support your approach, but that's probably for the next finance committee to take on. We want to put this to bed now and have an answer for the solution. So that's hence the resolution.
And that could probably fit into what Cassie was talking about, filling the gap so we don't have an 18% increase. We could maybe go recover some of them restricted funds. Anybody online or?
Yes. Could you move the resolution up so I can see it cuts off. It cuts off after ARPA. Thank you.
So Ho-Chunk funds can be used for budget purposes?
Yeah, Martha, it's not ideal, but we've done it many times, is the unfortunate answer. And then here, the Ho-Chunk, there are things that were appropriated that were never used. So they would have gone back to general fund anyway. So it's just kind of money that's floating out there. So rather than putting it back to the general fund, use it to fill the gap. The 2024 is a pre-commitment of unallocated, unappropriated dollars right now. So we already have the check in the bank. There's some 1.2 million sitting there. So we are saying we're using part of that as well. So.
Mary Henry?
Mine kind of goes along with the Ho-Chunk. Does this really fit in the spirit of what that fund is for?
Mary, we all agree with you, but at the same time, so Ho-Chunk previous allocation, those Ho-Chunk dollars allocated to projects that were never executed. What happens to that money? It goes back in the general fund. If we were really pressed for an issue here and had no other solutions, we would go to the general fund. So it's kind of a shell game, and it's just titled different things, but that would have gone back. It's not ideal. We all agree, Mary, but again, it would go back to the general fund in a circle, and it would probably be the same dollar in the end anyway.
Thank you for clarifying.
Any other comments here or online? Okay, seeing none. Resolution 2024 budget amendment projected revenue shortfall. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes. Regular order of business, the administrative coordinator's report.
Tricia and I are just wrapping up our meetings with the department heads to go over the draft wage study. We'll then meet with the wage consultant to iron out any issues that were brought up during our department head meetings. Once that step is complete, we'll take that to the general government committee and then the full board. So we hope to have this project wrapped up in May. As you know, the finance director position is posted and is open until April 1st. As I said previously, we'll be looking at making some internal process changes as we transition with a new director. In the interim, I will be supervising the finance department staff, assisting with some of the reporting duties and providing additional training. We're working diligently to wrap up the 2023 books in order to not further delay the audit. And I do want to thank the county's staff, not only in the finance department, but in other financial positions across the county. Everyone's been very willing to help and to assist where they can. So we're trying to, it's been a real team effort these last 2 weeks to try and get as much information as we can so that we're not delaying any of our processes here. Yesterday, I spoke with Brian Kent from SEH in regards to the timeline for filing an addendum to the feasibility study in response to the letter of completeness issued by the DNR. He stated that his team is currently working on the response and they hope to have it wrapped up by the end of the week. They will work with the DNR with their recommendation of installing more monitoring wells with the timing contingent on whether the DNR will require them to be installed prior to approval and whether they will require groundwater monitoring prior to the feasibility study being approved. He stated that once we know that the work that they're proposing is acceptable to the DNR, SEH will be able to provide us with a cost estimate for that work. So that's where that's sitting. You should all have a flyer for the comprehensive plan survey. If you have not filled that out yet, you are highly encouraged to do so. Should take you about 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. Currently have April 26th set aside for board training and development. So if you guys can mark that day off on your calendars, it's a Friday. trying to aim for about 4 hours. So we're not going to keep you here for a full Friday. That's a lot. Community development grants are due April 19th. For those of you that are unaware of the program, grants of up to $10,000 each are available to municipalities in Vernon County. And if you'd like to see some examples of grants that have been awarded in the past, that is on our website. And then finally, I'd like to thank the outgoing supervisors for their time and commitment to the county over the course of their terms, and I wish them well in the future. So those that aren't aware, Kyle, Mary Bringy, Rod, Gail, and Kelly, this is their last board meeting. So thank you all for your commitment and for the support that you've provided to our staff here.
Are there any petitions? Are there any ordinances? Memorials and remonstrance?
My name is David Stovenell. I'm from over by DeSoto. Now, last time I was here, I described discrimination against myself, but I described different people groups that have had discrimination in the past as well. Now, for a long time, I've been working on presenting to the county board what I call, for lack of a better description, institutionalized discrimination that started out being discrimination against veterans, which literally covers all people groups, but now it has saturated society. And so in a 4-minute period of time, I definitely can't go into all of the details about that, but all I can say is that I'm working with the CVSO, County Veteran Service Officer, as a liaison between myself being out of government now and someone that is a connection what would be called partly in government as an advocate for veterans. Because when veterans are discriminated against, literally it saturates society eventually. And so I just wanted to say that, and this definitely, it's nothing personal against anyone that might think that the word discrimination is a dirty word or something, because see, there's two sides of discrimination, and this is important to comprehend. There's negative discrimination and there's positive discrimination. And anyone in the world can handle one or the other. But veterans are negatively discriminated against and positively discriminated for. So it makes it complicated to try to put something in writing that can be a cogent presentation. And so I just wanted to say that. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Any reports from standing or special committees? Any other unfinished business? Dave.
I was going to give an acknowledgement to Ben Woyan at Land and Water for a wonderful article he wrote in our state county association booklet. And also thank everybody that had their hand in selling that former county shop. I closed on March 1st. We should have all been there with balloons and cake, but I guess it closed in Madison and there was very little fanfare. So thanks to everybody that was part of it.
Ben's not here to take a bow either, so.
I'll take a bow. I signed the deed.
Any other unfinished business? Next meeting date? That's Tuesday. Okay, it's Tuesday, April 16th. It's no choice. Agenda items for next meeting.
I have one request. I would like to request a short life-saving awards presentation for the next county board meeting. I don't think it would take me any more than 10 minutes. And the life that was saved was near the border of District 18 and District 19. And I'd sure appreciate 5 to 10 minutes of your time to present those awards.
Yeah. Meeting on 15 minutes. Have to check with, we would have to check with Connor, but we were being asked to have updates on IT, the big projects that we're working on. There's at least three big projects. And that's all I would have. We'll have to check with Connor.
Yeah. Is there also office and stuff like that we're gonna have to do, or is that just kind of?
Oh, well,
just a standing stuff?
so yeah, those of you that are returning and the newly electeds, we'll do the swearing in and oath of office that day. Judge Tim Gaskell has agreed to come over for that. So then maybe we'll take a picture even, who knows, but. So, yeah.